faith increases, the more you talk about faith. Like people that from work that are watching this, and some of you guys too, the more I talk about faith, the more you guys are like, I think we can do this. And you guys are coming up to me talking about stuff that I wouldn't have ever heard out of your guys' mouth before. Because the more you talk about faith, the more your faith increases, is what I'm learning through this series. But today's story is very commonly told when talking about faith. But we are praying for revelation. We're praying for revelation. So we hear the story very often, and you've heard it told over and over and over again. But the Bible's alive. So you could literally be sitting. Let me tell you. The Bible's alive, so sometimes things are revealed to us that we've never seen before. Revelation is revealed truth. It's revealed truth. Revealed truth. So you could literally be sitting here looking at something that's covered up. It's covered up. My thumb is covered up. But when there's revelation, what ends up happening is the truth that was there all along gets revealed. All of a sudden, you see it. Many times, we read the Bible, though, for information. We read the Bible for information or inspiration, when we should be praying that God gives us revelation. So we read the Bible thinking, oh, I read this story so many times. Well, so then pray for revelation. Pray that God reveals something that you haven't seen before. Because when God gives us revelation, when we're able to finally see that thing that's been staring at us the whole time, the revelation causes transformation. Transformation is our goal. Transformation is where we want to get to. We don't want to be the same people we were yesterday. See, 2 Corinthians 5:17 tells us that therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away and new has come. So until you get a new revelation of something, you won't change. You won't change. Remember, our mission here at Refuge Church is to grow others, and to increase heaven's population. We are to grow. We are to change. We are to transform our lives. Most of us have information that working out is good, right? Most of us have the information that if I work out, that's good for my body. But until we go to the doctor, and the doctor tells us that our cholesterol is high, our blood pressure is high, that we need to lose weight, and then if we don't, we're going to die in 5 to 10 years. That's revelation. So until we hear that from the doctor, we don't start working out. Right? Like, we need the revelation before we start working out. We already have the information. So most of us have already heard these stories, but we haven't had the revelation. God hasn't showed us what we need to hear from it. So what I'm telling you is that when you're reading the Bible and when you're studying, because this story you've heard a million times, so don't just think, oh, he's talking about that one again. I'm telling you, pray for revelation. Pray for revelation. So what I'm telling you is, if the doctor tells you your blood pressure's high, your cholesterol's high, you need to lose weight, you're going to die 5 to 10 years, most of you already know I'm overweight and I'm out of shape. But if the doctor told you that, y'all be calling me, hey Mike, when's that marathon? I want to be running with you. What's that plan? How did you do it? That's revelation. By the way, Josiah and I ran 6 miles yesterday. That was our longest run. I hurt. Can I be a hot pastor for a minute? A hot pastor, yes. That's humble, open, and transparent. I want to be humble, open, and transparent with you guys. This thing has not been easy. I am struggling. My legs hurt. Please pray for me. Since I started running, I've been getting these headaches behind my left eye. The doctor says it's either a magnesium deficiency or an iron deficiency because I'm sweating too much out. they are the worst headaches of my life, and I've had one every day for 8 weeks that I've been running now. And literally, like, I wake up 3 times a day, and I have to get in the shower and just cry for 30 minutes, and I don't get out until I throw up. So I told my wife yesterday, this is the hardest thing I've ever done for God. Please pray for your pastor. I'm going to run 26.2 miles. I'm going to do it. The doctor's he's got me on a magnesium and iron supplement. Hopefully they get better. They will get better because I'm not going to kill myself. But pray for me. Pray for me. I really believe God's called me to do this. So my mama got to see one a couple weeks ago, and I don't think she had realized how bad they were until she saw that one. But they're bad. They're bad. So, and I don't know why I told you guys that. Just because I was talking about my marathon, I guess. But pray for me. Anyway, we'll go back to the message now. So we need to pray for revelation. So until you get a revelation of something, you won't change. So we're praying for revelation. Today, and really throughout a lot of the rest of this series, we're going to focus on the character of Peter. And I told you before, I identify with Peter. I identify with Peter. If I was going to give Peter a characteristic, I would call Peter the thug disciple or the gangster disciple. That dude was crazy. He literally cut dudes' ears off. Peter, there's some scripture I want to give you guys. Matthew 16:18. You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Man, if Jesus told me that, I'll be up here. That's the greatest compliment someone could ever give somebody. I'm going to build my church on you. Hell's not going to prevail against you. You are awesome. I love you. Right? Matthew 16:18. That's Peter. Peter was an amazing person. Matthew 6:23. How many scriptures is that later? That's 5 scriptures later. But he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance to me." That's the same Peter. It's the same Peter. I identify with Peter. I've been there. I've been with where God's like, "Mike, I love you. You're awesome. You're the greatest pastor." And then where it's like, "Mike, quit." You're terrible. You done screwed up. You messed up. That's Peter. Peter cut dude's ears off. Peter did crazy stuff. Peter, like I said, he cut a dude's ear off. Then he preached. Not a couple months later, he preached a message that saved 5,000 people. So that's 5 scriptures later. He's getting told from I'm going to build my church to get behind me, Satan. Jesus called him Satan. Like other sides of the world. That's why I identify with Peter. But this dude, he was a gangster. He walked the line at 51%. It is because of his attitude, though, this attitude from Peter, this walking the line thing, that we get to see him do what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about Peter doing something that only 2 men only two men of all time have ever done. Peter walked on water, and it's because of this do-or-die personality that he has. Nobody has ever walked on water except for Peter and Jesus. Nobody. We have the advantage of hearing the story of Jesus and Peter, right? And we still can't do it. Peter did it, and he hadn't even heard the story. He hadn't even heard about Jesus doing it. He saw Jesus, but he hadn't even heard about Peter doing it. He hadn't even heard about it, and he did it. This dude, just some review real quick though, because I would say walking on water was that level 1, that first week, crazy faith. But we understand that crazy faith starts with baby faith. And then sometimes we need baby faith. And today, wavy faith. He's going to ask. So here it is. Today we are talking about wavy faith because sometimes when you start walking with God, He's going to ask you to step out of what's comfortable and walk on something that has never helped anybody else up before. He's going to ask you to walk on something that has never held anybody else up before. So water has never held anybody else up before, and he's asking Peter to walk on it. He's going to ask you to be the first person in your family to never get divorced. He's going to ask you to step out of what's comfortable and walk on something that's never held anybody in your family up before. He's going to ask you to be the first person in your family to not only go to college. He's going to ask you to not only go to college, but to graduate. He's going to ask you to not only to graduate, but to come out debt-free. He's going to ask you to be the first person in your family to retire at a younger age than anybody. You say, but nobody in my family retires. Like, we don't get blessed like that. Daddy worked until he died. I'll have Social Security. God is telling you, you don't need to do what everyone in your family's done. He's asking you to walk where no one has walked before. He's asking you to trust something that's never held anybody else up before. Trust to do something that no one else has done before. He's saying, start saving, start putting money back, start working an extra job, start doing what you need because it's coming. I'm too old to start a ministry, Michael. No one starts a successful ministry at my age. By the time this church is big enough, I'll have one foot in the grave. Or you'll have one foot in the water. I'm telling you, God is bigger than what you think.
Amen.
He's asking you to step out and walk and trust that something is going to hold you up that has never held anyone else up before. God is calling you to wave your faith. And most of us are living our life in the boat. God is calling us to be out of the boat, and most of us are sitting in here. This is what ends up happening to us. We're saved. This is the boat that saved us. We were drowning in our life of sin, and this is the boat of Jesus Christ. And we're happy. But God is saying, where you are is no longer suitable for where I want to take you.
Come on.
I know the confines of what you are in has kept you safe so far, but it's time to come out of it. If you want to get into a bigger boat, a safer boat, you're going to have to get into the water to get there. Lauren Daigle sings, Spirit, lead me. What you say? Lead me where my trust is without borders. This boat has borders. Lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters. There is only so much you can do inside this boat. I can't do too much in this boat. Like, if I lived my life in this boat, I would never be successful. I would never, ever graduate college. I would never, ever find the woman. Well, I already have the woman of my dreams. But if Jordan was in this boat, he would never find the woman of his dreams. Jesse would never ride a bull in this boat. Like,
that's what you think.
Like, my dad would have never driven a race car in this boat. Like, things don't happen if we stay in the boat. There's only so much I can do here. So God is saying you have done everything you can do here. It's time to step out. Like, trust me.
Yes.
I know this is safe, but trust me. Trust me. Trust me. It's time to step out. That thing you've been thinking about, that's not just you thinking. That's me calling you. That thing that you keep pushing off, it's time that you start stepping toward it. But our faith looks like this. This is comfortable. Like, this is comfortable, right? So, God, meet me here where I am. God, meet me here. Like, God, that job I want, you can put, there's a lot of room for it right there. Like, in the boat. That girl, can't you just plop her down right there? That college degree, I don't have to go across the, I know you've been telling me to go to Oregon, but can't you just, can I just do it online and stay at home in my bedroom? Like, Mom and Daddy pay for my rent and things will be really good, God, right here in my boat. I could get my college degree right here. That's what our faith looks like. But God is saying, step out where it's uncomfortable. Step out and walk on something that has never held anybody else up. God is saying that we have to get out of the boat. God is saying it's time to move forward with our lives, with our ministry, with everything. God is saying if you want more, you have to get out of the boat. You have to show me some trust. This is where we find Peter. Matthew 14:38. It says, and Peter answered him, Lord, if it's you, command me to come out to you on the water. He said, come. So Peter got out of the boat and walked on water and came to Jesus. We have 6 points today about wavy faith. 6 points to help you live outside of the borders. Some of you are like, why would we do that? The boat seems really comfortable. Mom and Dad did it this way their whole life, and they're just fine. The boat seems very logical. My destination seems like a pretty good place. If you want to live your Christianity inside the boat, just have faith for salvation. But my Bible tells me that in Christ I'm a child of God. And God is a king. That makes me a prince. And pretty good is not good enough for me. Pretty good is not good enough. My God has called me beyond where I'm at. My God wants me to improve. He wants me to get better. And I believe that God has the same for you. Yes. I'm not talking, I don't want to sound like this prosperity guy. But I'm telling you, God doesn't want us to stay where we're at. He doesn't like stagnant. He doesn't want us dead. He's always moving. He's always changing. He's always calling people to move. Few times in the Bible will you see where he tells someone to sit still, and that is only for a season. Only for a season will he tell them to sit still. God wants us to move. So 6 points. Getting out of the boat takes wavy faith. To look at it and say, you want me to write that down, God? You want me to tell someone? It's like this. Wavy faith is like this. You're in the boat and God says do something and you're like, that's not solid. That doesn't seem like it's going to hold me up, God. The waters are moving and you want me to step out in it? Like, it's a storm, God. And I don't know if that's God. It don't make no sense. That's wavy faith. God, you're calling me to do what? But God, we just bought this house. You want me to sell it? That would mean I need to step out in some wavy water. God, you told me I'm supposed to live in Buckeye. Now you're telling me Houston? I don't know nobody in Houston. And the Rockets play in Houston. No. And God said, you don't have to be a Rockets fan, Mike, but you're going to Houston. Okay, God. I'll just step out in some wavy faith. Wavy faith is when it doesn't make sense and it doesn't seem right, but you know God is telling you, and you're going to do it. Are you ready for point number one? Point number one is here. Wavy faith believes. I am the exception. Wavy faith believes I am the exception. When God is calling you deeper and you have never seen it done before, that means God is about to do it for the first time for you. Don't limit yourself by what you have seen done for others. Never say if it didn't happen for them, it can't happen for me. Have you seen what Tom Brady is doing after 40? Imagine if he would have been the typical person and said, oh, I'm 37, I'm done. That's 3 Super Bowls ago. If he would have said that, I'm done. Do you know what that would have made Tom Brady? It would have made him Larry Fitzgerald. He would have been done at 37, retired, and everybody would have thought, why? He could have broke records. He could have done great things. But Tom Brady said, I don't care that other people quit at 37. I'm going to play until I'm 45. And now, people are talking about him playing until he's 50. People say, you can't do it, Tom. And watch me. Tom doesn't even have faith in a God. You know what he has faith in? His diet. We have less faith in our God than Tom Brady has in his diet. What is wrong with Christians today? We have to step forward and move in our God. I'm the exception. I know Brett Favre couldn't do it. I know he went to the Vikings and tried to win Super Bowls and lost. But I'm going to Tampa Bay and I'm going to win something. Like, I know that people don't do it. I know that people have been in Buckeye and they tried to grow that church and it didn't happen. But I'm going to do it because I'm the exception. Wavy faith says, I know nobody walks on water in the middle of a storm, but I'm the exception. I'm going to do it because I have a God that's bigger than their God. I have a God bigger than Tom Brady's diet. I have a God bigger than that stuff. Wavy faith says there's a property there that's been for sale for years. 10 pastors, they tell me. And they tell me every one of them has said, we're going to buy it. Some lady told me one time when I first started here. By the way, when I started here, there were 6 people. One of them is sitting here today. But one of them told me, because I told her right away, it was part of my vision, we're going to get that property. And she said, oh, every pastor says that. I'm the exception. And she laughed at me. Okay. I had no idea that I was going to run a marathon and that I was going to have the worst headaches of my life and that fat 240 pounds somehow was going to happen. That's ours. It's ours. Because I'm the exception. You are the exception. We serve a God of exceptions. Over and over again in the Bible, we see God make exceptions. God makes exceptions for people all the time. There are stories that didn't happen for 100 people. They don't happen for 30 people, for 10 people, for 5 people. These stories happen for one person, for one exception. Only one man got to say, I slept in a den of lions and I came out alive. Only one man said, I was blind, Jesus spit in my eyes and now I see. Only one woman said, I touched the hem of his garment and now my blood issue is gone. Only one man can say, God gave me a kid at 90. Only one woman can say, a man can say, God gave me a kid at 99 years of age. Only one boy can say, I killed a giant with a rock. And only Peter can say, I walked on water. And serve a God of exceptions.
Amen.
So when people tell you you can't do it, you tell them, I am the exception. And when they say, you're not the, how are you the exception? You say, because I serve the I am. I am the exception because I serve the I am. We serve a God of exception. Peter stepping out on water was Peter saying, I am the exception.
Yeah.
Exception means this. It means what happens with them does not dictate or determine what happens with me. I don't condone tattoos. But some of you guys need to tattoo that on your forehead. Like seriously, what happens with them doesn't happen with you. Stop living your life through others. Everything you've seen doesn't have to be what you live. You are a child of God. This is not a prideful statement. It's not a declaration of superiority, but it's a declaration of distinction. I'm not better than you, but I'm different than you. Christians don't say I'm better than you. They say we're different than you. They say, I go through the same trials, but I come out with less anger. I go through the same trials, but I come out with less pain. I go through the same trials, but I don't have to come out with the same frustration. I have the joy of the Lord on my side. I am a child of God. God has called us to be different. We need to walk like it. Walk like I may go through the same situation, but I'm coming out different because I am the exception. Why not you? Why not us? Why not Refuge? Why not Buckeye? Why can't we be the exception? If we call ourselves Christians, then why not call ourselves the exception? Peter was the exception. I tried to find where in the Bible they call Christians normal. Do you know I couldn't find it? It's not there. Nowhere in the Bible does Jesus say that we're average. Nowhere in the Bible does he say we're normal. Nowhere in the Bible that he says we work at 8 to 5 and that we retire at a good age and that we have grandkids and we have a white picket fence. Nowhere in the Bible does God say that we're normal. He says we're the exception. Yeah. We're the exception. So, but it takes faith. It takes faith. It takes us believing. We have to believe. We have to believe. We don't talk about the guy who was walking around watching Jesus perform miracles. We don't talk about the sick lady who never left her house the day to touch the hem of his garment. We talk about the people who say, God don't have to, but he's going to do it for somebody, so why not me? We talk about the guy who said, he doesn't have to, but why not me? Like, if he's going to do it for somebody, why not me? If somebody's going to win, why not me? Like, he doesn't have to heal anybody, but he's going to do it for somebody, so I'm getting in line. Like, I'm the exception. I'm the exception. I'm getting in line. He don't have to save everybody's mama. But if he's going to save somebody's mama, why not mine? He doesn't have to heal everybody's body. He doesn't have to heal everybody's baby. But if he's gonna, why not mine? He doesn't have to give everybody a new car. But if he's gonna do it for somebody, why not my family? I'm the exception. I'll get out of the boat. I'll be the exception. People don't get into fiery furnaces with their homeboys and come out not smelling like they've been through fire, but the Hebrew boys did. God made them an exception. Red Seas don't part themselves. But when Moses put the stick up and said, this is what God has called me to do, those seas parted. And God made an exception. Walls don't fall down just because people walked around them and played some instruments and screamed real loud. God made an exception. Dead men don't get up. Dead men don't spend 3 days in the tomb and then get up 3 days later and be like, BAM! I'm alive!
You need to stop screaming into your mic.
They don't do that. Dead men don't do that. But Jesus said, I'm the exception. I'm going to save the world. Aren't you glad Jesus said, I'm the exception? Josiah, aren't you glad Jesus said, BAM?
He doesn't better say the soundboard.
Aren't you glad somebody said, I'm the exception? God can never make an exception but God can never make an exception for somebody that stays in the boat. I have never graduated from Bible college. I don't have any team with experience. I didn't have a worship leader. I didn't have a children's church leader. I didn't have an assistant pastor. I don't have nothing. But I believe that I am the exception. I believe that I was the exception and I stepped out of the boat. There's always an exception. So why not you? Why not me? Why not us? Why can't we live on a faith in a God that we say we have faith in? Matthew 14:28 says this. Immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. I want to say this. Jesus feeds 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. 5 loaves of bread, 5 Wonder Breads, and 2 cans of sardines. He fed 5,000 people. My mother sent me to a Halloween contest one year with a robe and a basket with 5 pieces of bread and 2 cans of sardines. And I'll never forget. It was embarrassing. But I won the Halloween contest for most creative.
Amen.
Yeah, but Jesus just does that. He fed 5,000 people with this 5 loaves and 2 fish. He feeds them. Immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. So number 2 right here. Number one was Wavy Faith believes I am the exception. Number 2, Wavy Faith believes I was exported. Exported means sent. Immediately, right after this miracle, it says Jesus made them get into the boat. Peter probably saw a miracle like that. If I see it, I told you guys I identify with Peter. If I see a miracle like that, if I see Jesus feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and he tells me to get in a boat and go across the sea, no fool, I'm staying with you. So we're going to hang out for a while. Like, I know you Jesus and all, but we're going to hang out because I ain't leaving you. I want to see some more. But Jesus makes him get into the boat. He makes them get into the boat. It says, immediately he made the disciples get into the boat. Jesus was like, no, I have something I need you to do. Go. You're not staying with me. I know that was cool. I got more I'll show you later. but you're going to get in the boat because I got something for you on the other side. I got something for you over there. You need to go. Too many times we're like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go nowhere, Jesus. But Jesus is like, go. Too many times we think that when we are in a storm, we did something wrong. The disciples end up in this storm and Jesus sent them there. Too many times we think we did something wrong. We caused this. If I had just not done this, then this would not have happened. I made the wrong decision and now I'm in this storm. What happens when you obey God? You obey what God said and you are still in a storm. Maybe the scene of what you think is your greatest storm is also the setting of your greatest miracle. Listen a few moments. After the storm is when Jesus walked on water. God had to get Peter out there somehow. What if the storm you are going through was scheduled to get you to the very place you are going to be when you perform your greatest miracle? What if that class you hate, you know that class you're taking here that you really, really don't like? What if that class that you hate is where you'll get to tell someone about Jesus and he becomes the next Billy Graham? The next, greatest minister of all time, and he wins 50 million souls. What if that happens? And it's all because you were in a class that you hated. What if that storm was scheduled? What if that storm you are in puts you in a place to understand someone else? And when they're going through that same storm, you're able to help them. And it not only changes their life, but their kids and their grandkids. What if Jesus put you in the storm so that you can have your greatest miracle? What if the storm led you to some prayers that sounded like this? God, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life. I'm at a place where I know it's time to do something, but I haven't heard from you, and I desperately need to hear your voice. And God began to pour a vision in you that led you to your purpose. Many times the place of your greatest storm will also be the place of your greatest miracle. All things work together for the exception. So I'm asking you to always ask God in a storm, did you export me here before you run? Because many times we see the storm. We see the storm. We're in the boat. And what do? We start rowing. We start rowing faster. We start rowing faster. We want to get away from the storm. What if God put us there on purpose? And we're running away from it. So I'm telling you, ask God before you run. Ask God before you run. God might have put you there. I don't have any oars, so I just got to use my hands. But ask God before you run. Number 3, wavy faith prepares with expectation. Before we talk about this one, I want to remind you that 2 men walked on water this day. Jesus and Peter. Jesus was fully God, fully human. Jesus walking on water was a miracle too. Jesus broke the law of gravity too. Jesus broke the law of buoyancy too. Jesus could have sunk too, right? We always forget. We always talk about Peter walking on water. Jesus did it too. Jesus did it too. Wow. His natural state was able to fall and drown just like Peter. So now that you realize this, watch this. Matthew 14:23. After Jesus feeds the crowd and he sends them off, and after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. Peter got on the boat. Jesus went to pray. Do you know that later when they're walking on water, Peter sinks and Jesus doesn't?
Mm-hmm.
Whew. When I realized that, I had revelation. Wow. He went to do spiritually what he needed to do to stand in the natural on something people said could not happen. Jesus went alone to pray. Why? Because he was spiritually preparing to stand on what others drown in. Most of us are trying to work our way to a spot that once we get there, we won't be able to stand there. We won't have the character. We won't have the fortitude, the know-how, because we did not prepare spiritually. What many people are doing is they are rowing their way to the same place that God is walking to. We work too hard for what God could give us. We're rowing, sweating. Where's my disciples? Josiah, Jordan, Jacob. Get in that boat. We are rowing and rowing and rowing. So, yeah, here we are. And Jacob, just sit down and face them real quick. Here we are. We're rowing. We're rowing. Y'all ain't rowing. Why ain't you rowing?
Come on, Jacob.
Use your hands, fool. Row. So we're rowing and rowing and we're rowing all night. Your side hurt? Because we've been rowing all night. Your side hurt? My side hurts. We've been rowing all night. And here comes Jesus just walking like nothing. Will you be mad? I'm mad. I'm mad because I'm working my butt off. And God's saying, if you would have just prayed, if you would have just spent some time with me, if you would have just spiritually prepared, if you would have done some spiritual workout, you could have spent time on your knees instead of rowing. It's a lot easier to pray. We want to work out. We want to do all this and do it on our own. But Jesus just went and prayed, and here he come walking. He come walking. What many people are doing is they are rowing their way to the same place God is walking to. The disciples had a head start. They had 12 people rowing. And these dudes were not out of shape dudes. Many of them were fishermen who rowed boats for a living. They should have been far ahead of Jesus. He come walking. He didn't run on water. He walked on water. Wow. Can you imagine being Jesus' little brother? I heard one time James almost drowned. His mom was like, why can't you be like Jesus? And he tried to walk on water. Anyway. Jesus stopped and prayed, and he prepared himself spiritually. He walked to where others rode to. God says, if you would just start spending time with me and seeking my presence, I can open one door that will put you ahead of all those people you think you're behind. Yeah, you feel like you're behind, but just spend some time with me. We'll skip years. It doesn't make sense that I'm walking and y'all been rowing, but I'm God, and I can make you an exception. I can make you an exception. I don't care if they're fishermen rowing. I can make you an exception. I can make you an exception. Wow. I can open one door. Then we see Peter get off the boat. I'm missing a page somewhere. Ooh, what happened to my pages? I'm sorry, guys. So, anyway, what I'm telling you is, God can skip years. God can skip
They're right
years.
there.
No, that's not
I thought he had some pages down there. I'm like,
So, God can skip years. Then we see Peter get off the boat and walk on the water. But in a moment of doubt or fear, we see him sink. Because, why? Because Peter saw Jesus do something publicly, but he didn't prepare the same way privately. Jesus saw Peter do it publicly. He saw him do it. And many times people are like, why? I could be a pastor. I could go up and talk and make people laugh and give good points like Pastor Michael. But you don't know what I go through physically, spiritually. You don't know the attacks that happen on the backside.
yeah.
So yeah, Peter could walk on the water, but he wasn't ready for that moment of doubt. Like, so you're ready for that front side, but not that back side. Like, that's it. Like, yeah, you can sing better than Ron, maybe. No, probably no one here can sing better than Ron. But you can sing better than Ron, maybe, but I'm telling you, when you step into a ministry, God does something to you. Like, things aren't the same anymore. And maybe you're not ready for that. So, you have to be spiritually ready. You need to always prepare in the season alone to be able to do in front of everybody what God is asking you to do. Number 4. Wavy faith examines before expressing. Let's read Matthew 14:26. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost." And they cried out in fear. Turn around, Jacob. We're going to go that way now. Wow. Let me get here. So I'm telling you guys, they were scared. The disciples are in the boat and they are rowing. Let's row. And all of a sudden, one of them says, "Ah, it's a ghost!" Dude, "Ah, it's a ghost!" They're bad actors. Let's try again. "Ah, it's a ghost!" And they all get scared because that's what we do. That's what we do when Jesus comes at us in a way that we're not used to seeing him. Jesus sometimes comes in a way that we're not used to seeing him. Yeah. That's what we do. When we weren't ready or we're not expecting how he was going to present the promotion. So when Jesus comes different, we get scared and we go, "Ah, So what did the scriptures say? It says they were terrified. And we learned last week that the opposite of faith is what? Fear. So they were so scared that they started labeling something that was good, that was for their good, for their bad. Ah, it's a ghost.
Oh, the ghost.
It was like this. Here, let me sit over there. It was like this. Y'all say it's a ghost again? Ah, it's a ghost! And Peter be like, "No, fool, it's Jesus."
That's not Jesus. That's too fat to be Jesus.
You think this is fat? I think he looks a little skinny. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure that's Jesus. "Hey, Jesus, if that's you, let me step out to you and walk." Peter says, "If that's you, Jesus." Them fools didn't even recognize Jesus.
It don't matter if it's dark. They don't
But what I'm telling you is this. I'm telling you, in a wavy faith, we have to give things time before we label them. They thought Jesus was a ghost. God in a storm doesn't always look like God. What they would call a ghost in one season, a few seconds later they would call God. What they were saying, "Ah, it's a ghost," Soon they were jumping out of boats and walking to. Well, one of them. Right now, we might be saying, I can't believe I lost my job. But in a few years, you're going to be saying, that was God. I'm so glad I don't work there anymore.
Yeah.
Right now, you're saying, my friends have betrayed me. But in a few years, you might be saying, I'm so glad they're not in my life anymore. Like, he just dumped me. But in a few months, you might be saying, I have the best new boyfriend ever. Like, I hope my mama doesn't say that. Somebody. Examine clearly in the storm, or you're gonna be relabeling some things. His ways are not our ways. God doesn't always look like God in the storm. Some things don't look clear right now, but because you're in a storm. It's hazy, it's cloudy, there's rain. Give God some time. So just realize this. It may be too early to tell if it's God or not. What you think is a setback is a setup. It's too early to tell. Number 5, wavy faith can't ignore exposure. Wavy faith can't ignore exposure. And this one, wavy faith can't ignore exposure. Peter was sitting there, and when he said, that ain't a ghost, that's Jesus, and John said, that's too fat to be Jesus, and Peter said, no, fool, that's Jesus. I'm getting up, and I'm walking to him, and he says, Jesus, if that's you, let me walk to you. And he got out of the boat, and he began to walk. He began to walk. This one is what that's not it, but that's a copy of it. So, I'm telling you, at some point, Peter was like, hold up. I don't think that's a ghost. Look, man, do you see it? I think that's Jesus. You don't see it? I see it. I see it. Do you see it? And Bartholomew, do you see it? And Bartholomew's like, I don't see it. That's a ghost. Let's roll. Bartholomew like, that. No, Peter, that's a ghost. Let's go. Use your hands. Use your hands. And Peter's like, I've been too long with Jesus. I don't have my exposure time. I don't have my prayer time. I don't have my Bible reading time. I spent my time with him. I'm spiritually ready. That's my God, and I want to be with him. I watched the miracle. I watched them feed the 5,000. I'm getting out of the boat. I recognize him. I can't help but want to be with him. I'm getting out of the boat. I can't help but want to be with him. Jesus, if that's you, he says. Maybe faith, right? Jesus, if that's you, command me to come out of the water. When you have been exposed to Jesus enough, when you've been exposed to enough time with him, you can't help but want to be with him. If that means you leave the boat, then you leave the boat. You see, if you know him like that, then you want to be with him. You can't wait to get out. You would be like, hey guys, make room for Jesus. You see, if I was in the boat, and Peter says, guys, that's not a ghost, that's Jesus. I feel like most Christians today would be like, if you really think that's Jesus, then scoot over, make some room. Hey, homeboy, Jesus, get in here. We got room for you. And Jesus like, I don't want to be in there. I want you to step out to me. Like, I don't want you just to go to church on Sunday and sing a few songs and hear Pastor Mike be funny instead of sitting in a boat. I want you to step out and give the community some bikes and help some poor kids that want to get Christmas. There's some kids that have some holy backpacks, and that's what they're going to take, and I want you all to help them. I want you guys to pray over them before you give them out. And those holy backpacks, now they're going to have holy backpacks.
Amen.
Because Refuge Church stepped out. They stepped out the boat. I want y'all to step out even when it's not comfortable. I want to get in the boat with you. I don't want to come to church on Sunday. That's not enough for me. Step out the boat. Do something different. Step out the boat. Haven't you been exposed to me enough to want to be with me out here?
Okay.
Crazy, wavy faith. Wavy faith can't ignore exposure. And number 6 is the last one, and I know it's late. Wavy faith is not exclusive. Here's the cool thing about wavy faith. I really, this is this is why I love this one. I told you guys this a few weeks ago, but I want to hammer it here. Matthew 14:29. Come, he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and toward Jesus. Peter stood up. Peter standing at Josiah's pews. Peter standing. He says, Jesus, if that's you, let me come to you, right? And Jesus said, he doesn't say, come, Peter. And he said, come on, Peter, walk on the water. That's not what he said. Get back in the boat. He said, come. He said, come. Get back in there. I don't think they're seeing it. Jesus said, come. Peter got up and he got up. Jesus doesn't only invite Peter to walk on the water. He said, come. And Jordan and Jacob are still sitting here like bums. Haven't you taught your kids anything wrong? Jesus said, come. What if all 12 of them got up and when Jesus said, come, they actually did something? Wouldn't the story be better?
Yeah.
If Jesus said, come, and they all got up. I don't know what would have happened to Kimber's boat, but that would have been really cool. Jesus, it's not exclusive. Jesus invites us all. You guys can sit down. Jesus invites us all to this faith thing. Like, this faith thing is for all of us. We can all walk on water. We can all be the exception. All of us.
Yes.
It is for all of wavy faith. But that's the thing. It's wavy. It's scary. It's uncomfortable. It's not fun. We ain't never been to a church that did that before. Well, you ain't never had a pastor like me. So we're going to try. We're going to step out. We're not going to stay in our borders. We're going to go beyond our walls. I don't know. I know a lot of churches might do backpack drives, and a lot of churches might do Christmas things, whatever. But